you seen? Well, we have, of course. I know you haven't seen it. The new Fresh Prince. The Bel Air. It has lower score. I like the concept. I remember watching that trailer and I was like, "Ooh, that looks kind of good." But
I don't know. It looks like it's a bit more serious.
Well, it is. Yeah, it's more like a drama. It's a dramatization.
Oh, it's a dramatization. Okay.
So we'll see. Anyways, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Odum and Andrea show. Yeah. And today I'm looking forward to this. I've been looking for this for a long time because we are going to be talking about Rich Roll and his book here called Finding Ultra. If you can see that, put it up to the camera. And this guy is pretty interesting. I know you listen to a lot of, well, I don't know how many of his podcasts, but you have listened to his podcast before, but he does have a podcast. I haven't listened to a full one, but I really love his story. And from the stuff that you've told me so far about this guy's book and his story, I love it. Because, you know, like another one of the guys that I really love is David Goggins. And it seems like it's a very similar story in terms of.
There's a David Goggins connection that I'll tell you about.
Oh, okay. I'm sure there is. Yeah. So it's really cool. So I'm looking forward to it. Because I think this hits home a lot more in terms of what I've been trying to do and what I'm trying to do.
100%.
Specifically in terms of saying, you know, enough's enough, lose the weight, keep it off, and just get into peak physical performance. I keep wanting to do it, and I keep doing really well, but then I keep falling off.
Yeah.
And I have my own personal reasons for why that happens to me, but anyway, so yeah, I'm really excited to go into this. Yeah. So maybe we should just start. Let's just get right into it. Do you want to give a quick overview? Anyways, I'll shut up now. You can say your piece.
So I've read a ton of books like this, a ton of like motivational books, people that have done extreme things or changed their life around. And I have to say, this is probably the best one I've ever read.
Really?
Yeah. That's how high. Like you don't even have to ask me the rating for this book. It's like 10 plus out of 10.
Well, spoilers. Come on now.
Sorry. It's amazing.
Right.
So, and literally if you read nothing else in this book, and I've said this to you, just read the foreword because it's incredible. And so I'm just going to, before we get into it, I'm just going to quote from it. So he says, "The priority, like in society, is no longer self-actualization, nor is it contribution. Personal responsibility has been exchanged for victimhood. Challenge is to be avoided. Comfort is king. And he who amasses the most wins. Indeed, personhood has been reduced to consumerism." So, and then he says,
there is so much that you can unpack from that one statement. Yeah. And it first and foremost, it delves into the individual, obviously, of, you know, why have you perhaps gained weight, or why are you overweight, or why are you unhealthy, right?
Why are you in this situation?
Why are you in the situation? It's like, oh, well, you know what? This is McDonald's, their food is too good and it's, you know, it's just too tasty. I can't resist. Or, oh, my boss is the one who's giving me a hard time and I just can't get through it. Or, oh, you know, society itself is bringing me down and there's all these social constructs or whatever that are not making me be able to do whatever. All of that stuff, I think from what he's saying and what I even believe too, is it's just noise. It's just garbage, and it's just not being honest at looking at yourself and figuring out why for you you're not doing what you want to do and why you are where you want to.
Absolutely.
You are. And there's a huge culture class with this type of mentality that's going on. I mean, here in Canada, we've seen it, what's going on with even the, the convoy, right? And all this kind of stuff where people, the main reason for the convoy is that people don't want mandates. They don't want the government telling them what to do with their own bodies, especially. Pretty reasonable ask if you ask me, right? Yeah. And of course, to have Charter of Rights and Freedoms, right? We want to have that honored and respected, which is all about personal responsibility and being responsible for yourself.
And freedom of choice.
And the whole idea of like being a victim and whatever and having other people tell you what to do or the society, it's like for whatever reason, there's this fight of like, you know, it's not about the individual. It's about society putting in pressures to make people do these things that they don't want to do. Yeah. Therefore, we need to regulate that kind of stuff. And we have to regulate that thought. And he says it to consumerism, right? Like all this kind of stuff that's external, but it's not from within. And of course, you know, you and I are firm believers of things have to come from within. You know, if you want to do better in your life, first start looking within. Yeah, of course, there's situations where people are born into other situations 100%. Where there's bad, but there's a lot of people that have climbed out literally of a pile of shit and come up and made something great from their lives, right? So, and especially here, you know, in a quote unquote first world country, that there's no excuse for not being able to achieve what you want. There's nothing stopping you from today. There's nothing stopping you from achieving what you want to achieve. And this whole convoy and this whole stuff that's going on, especially here in Canadian politics, is part of that is that big culture class. It is, between people that want to have their freedoms to be who they are and what they want, and other people that want to impose their own views on other people. I don't know. It's maybe that's going a little bit too far, but anyways,
it could be.
Personal responsibility is a huge thing.
Huge thing.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that.
So that's what I'm saying. Like that was just from the foreword.
Right. So, did he write the foreword or is it from somebody else?
No, he wrote it because I think this is a revised and updated edition. And so I think he kind of wrote that again.
Right.
So, yeah. So I thought first we could just kind of go through like a quick timeline of his life and you can kind of get an idea for what he is and then kind of like what I got from the book. So his childhood was like pretty average, except that he definitely got bullied. And so he had glasses. He had a patch on his eye as well underneath his glasses. And then he, of course.
Like for how long?
I don't know. For a couple years.
Oh, really?
And then he had like a headgear. So which is like that's like that fucking rough.
Classic Winston look on the movies where you got the eye patch, the glasses, and some kind of headgear. And
so he definitely got bullied. And then
sorry, he's American, right?
Yeah.
Where was he born?
I'm not sure, but I think he kind of grew up like he grew up on like the East Coast. Like I think his dad was like a lawyer in Washington. I think that's what it was. And so obviously he's super shy. He gets bullied. But then he finds swimming and he's like really good at it. And he just kind of says in the book, like he just kind of feels at home and like he gets in and he just feels at home and that competitiveness kind of comes out and he becomes like a really good swimmer. And then he goes so when he's in his last year of high school, he's kind of courted by a bunch of different universities. And so he goes out to where like he travels to Harvard, he travels to Stanford, he travels to all these different universities to see what they have to offer and whatnot. And so this is when the drinking starts. And so he's kind of offered his first drink when he's out looking at these colleges because he's by himself and he's with these college-aged kids. And so they offer him a drink.
So he's never had alcohol before?
No.
Going on these
college
trips.
And so it's like, of course, your inhibitions are down and he finally feels like he can fit in with drinking. And so then it just kind of
everyone can kind of fit in with that. It's pretty that's the whole point.
But I think the point is coming from being such a shy, introverted person that's been bullied, that doesn't feel like he can connect with anybody. Finally, he's able to come out of his shell with the drinking.
But he didn't really live a very hard childhood.
No,
right?
No.
You know, like,
beside the bullying was rough.
I'm not minimizing that for sure, but I mean, like he wasn't beaten by his parents or anything crazy.
No, not at all, not at all. So the drinking becomes bad, and but
can you define bad?
So like he had an interview with the coach from Harvard. And he goes to the interview. The interview's like a lunch and he's drunk. Like he's just drunk and he goes to the interview. He ends up getting offered a scholarship at Harvard.
Because he's such a good swimmer.
He's such a good swimmer.
Right. If you're a really good athlete, you can pretty much get away with
anything. So then he ends up going to Stanford. And he swims.
Oh, really? So he turned down Harvard.
Yeah, he turned down Harvard.
Where is Stanford? That's
California. So, and that's why he just fell in love with California and like the vibe there and everything like that. And he ends up doing pretty well in swimming. I think it was like the night before his first meet, he's drunk and they're messing around in the auditorium or stadium and he falls and he like really hurts himself, like falling on these chairs and like he injures. I think he breaks a rib. And then so like in the next couple of days is this meet. It's just like a really big meet. And he ends up, even though he's like swimming with like a broken rib, he ends up doing really, really well. And he even beats one of the guys that goes on to become like a world champion swimmer.
No, at the time anyways.
At the time, yeah. So anyway.
Finds that extra gear. Maybe he was drunk it's numbed some of the pain.
But that's his pinnacle. because the drinking just takes over. He doesn't,
like in college. Was that first year, second year?
That was
like
the first year.
The first year.
Yeah. But he just, that's his pinnacle. He peaks kind of at that point, and then it just goes downhill because the drinking he's not able to reach his potential because the drinking just doesn't stop, and the partying. Yeah.
So how often is he drinking?
I don't know. It's often, and it's like blackout drunk.
Yeah.
So it's pretty rough. So he ends up graduating. He goes back to New York.
So does he swim for those 4 years though?
For like the 3 years.
So he swims,
and then he eventually quits.
Does he quit, or does he just get kicked off the team because he can't make the team?
I think he just quits. Yeah. So then he graduates. He kind of takes a year off working at like a law. I think it's
so he graduates from
Stanford.
No, but like what's his degree?
I don't know.
Okay.
I actually don't know. But then he goes to New York City, which he says is like Disneyland for alcoholics. And so he goes there for a year, works as I think it's like a law clerk or something like that. And then eventually he goes to law school at Cornell. Just kind of gets in because someone has he's on the wait list.
Okay.
Because all the spots have been filled.
Right.
And then he's like the next one to get called, and that's how he gets in.
Okay. So it's waitlisted.
Yeah.
Well, that's all right, I guess.
So he ends up doing really, really well. And then he gets to his first job in San Francisco, but the drinking just doesn't stop.
So all throughout his law school. Because law school is what? 4 years?
3
years.
So this whole time, his drinking is just
right.
ongoing.
How's his health at this point, other than drinking? Is he still exercising? He's still in shape, or is he just is he gaining a lot of weight?
I don't think he's gaining a lot of weight. I don't think he's ever been that person to be visually actually obese or nothing like that, because he's pretty tall and lean as it is. One of those naturally.
Well, now he is obviously.
But even back then, I think right.
Naturally. Well, of course, still being an athlete, being a swimmer, even though you're still drinking.
Yeah.
You're still training and burning a shit ton of calories.
Yeah. So he gets so eventually he goes over to California. He gets a job with one firm, his first job. He doesn't really like it. He ends up going, I think, more to Los Angeles and getting a job there. So it's kind of more in show business, which is what he kind of enjoyed. Mm-hmm. But then he gets a couple of DUIs and
a couple.
Yeah. And so finally kind of the main partner at the firm is just if you need to take some time off, the job will be here for you.
Get the shit under control.
Yeah, exactly. And so he declines that first time. And then finally, his parents, there's all kinds of stuff that happens. He meets a woman, they get married, but this marriage shouldn't have even happened. There's a whole story about this marriage. It's crazy. And he's literally it's over during the honeymoon. Do
you want to say anything about it a little bit?
Well, I guess she didn't realize he was an alcoholic, and he told her right before the wedding that he was an alcoholic, and the whole rehearsal, she was very cold, not wanting to talk to him or kiss him or hold his hand or anything, really cold. Uh-huh. And then even the wedding was weird. She was not saying much to him or anything, didn't want to talk to him at all. And then finally things came to a head at the honeymoon, and he was what the fuck is going on?
Right.
And she's just well, I'm cheating on you, basically.
It's not basically, it's either you are or you aren't.
And so, but she didn't want to have to go through the whole embarrassment of canceling the wedding almost.
Oh, so just go through the embarrassment
I think that's how the
divorce after the honeymoon.
Yeah, I think that's how the story goes. But anyways, so they ended up getting divorced.
But how long were they together before they even decided to get married?
I think it was a couple years.
So, but she was cheating on him the whole time?
No, I think it was just kind of towards the end.
Right.
Because it was a long distance relationship as well. So she was in San Francisco and he was in Los Angeles. So there was that was an issue as well. So, So anyways, so then he ends up opening up his own kind of boutique Hollywood firm. And that's something that he
I'm sure there's a couple clients in Hollywood that might need some lawyer services.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Or sorry, that boutique firm happens after he goes to treatment. So eventually.
So, okay.
So yeah, sorry. I got ahead of myself.
So he gets divorced.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he's still working.
He's still working at this firm in LA.
Right.
And so his parents are kind of done. They're done with all his shenanigans, and they say we don't want to have any contact with you until, and here's the name of a therapist. Like, we've been seeing a therapist, and we think you need to see.
So when you're saying shenanigans, what kind of shenanigans?
Just like, just constantly drunk and just all the.
Like, even when he goes to visit, he's drunk at them?
I think so.
So they just don't want to be around someone who's drunk all the
time. And so he finally ends up going to treatment in Oregon, and he's there for 100 days of treatment.
It's like into like their property or whatever it is that they have.
It's an inpatient, like he's there. So, and finally, like, he has like an epiphany and kind of really goes through it and gives up control and accepts everything that's kind of happening, that he's an alcoholic and this is what he needs to do to get better. So, so basically he kicks it. So then he goes back and he works for that firm in Los Angeles for a little bit, because he feels like, obviously, you let me kind of have this time, so I kind of owe you. But then when he finally figures out he's kind of met his obligation, then he's like, I'm just unhappy here. Like, this is just not what I meant to do. And so he opens up his own kind of boutique firm on his own. So then he ends up meeting, he's kind of done his work, and then it's kind of nice because it's like he's kind of done his work, and then he meets his wife that he's married to today.
Right.
And so she already has 2 kids. They have 2 kids together. And then at his 40th birthday, the day of his 40th birthday is kind of when he has his epiphany, where he's just not healthy. He's eating like shit.
All right, hang on. Can we just back up? Because I think you skipped a little bit that I want to know here. Yeah, so he goes he goes to rehab. It works.
Yeah.
He kicks his drinking anyways.
Yeah.
How old is he at this point?
So he would be like in his 30s.
He's in his 30s when he goes there. And so then he goes back to work in LA at this law firm for like a year.
I think it was like a
year, maybe 2. So he works for there for a little bit, decides that it's not for him. So then he quits that job, and then he moves to Oregon.
No, Oregon was where he did his treatment.
Okay, sorry.
So he's still in California this whole time.
And then he opens up his own lawyer. So he opens up his own lawyer firm. Yeah. And then while he's doing that, he meets his current wife,
Julie. Yeah.
So he meets, and then so throughout this time, so then since he was done his treatment and he gets his own boutique and he gets married, you're saying now all of a sudden he's unhealthy. So what happened in that time period that would make him unhealthy? Like what?
Okay, so I think what it is, and I think this happens when people stop smoking, is you have to replace that habit with something else. Right. And so I think for him, because he couldn't drink, what he was doing instead was having like all kinds of cheeseburgers and hamburgers and fast food. I think he had like a nicotine patch as well, and like that's not healthy. And he was like downing like,
because he was a smoker too when he was drinking, and then he quit that.
I think so. Yeah. So that's how he kind of got unhealthy. And so his 40th birthday, everyone else has gone to sleep, and he's like, because he's not sleeping properly either. He's up late. So he goes up the stairs, and he's like winded going up the stairs, and he kind of looks at himself in the mirror and is just like, I'm going to be dead. I'm going to have a heart attack and die if I continue on. So then he...
For some reason, eating cheeseburgers at midnight on front of the couch.
Yeah.
Going up the stairs and being winded is not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. And so I guess he kind of figures he's about like 50 pounds overweight at this point. So then he decides, so his wife, Julie, sounds like she's a pretty crunchy granola kind of
hipster,
hippie kind of deal.
Is that cooked? Yeah, it's raw, whatever, it's vegan or whatever, right? Sure.
So he just kind of says to her, like, I want to do this like kind of 7-day cleanse. Like, can you help me out with it? And so it was hard, right? The first couple days, because especially too, he's giving up caffeine.
Yeah. So he just goes all out, right?
Yeah.
That's my style.
It's I know. Like, so like,
I'm gonna wean into it. I'm just gonna dive right in, right?
But he feels after like the first hump, after this like kind of cleanse that he's on,
it's gonna be hard the first
he starts to feel like so much better.
I can only imagine.
So much better, like mental clarity, like all of these things. And so
the fog that comes from stuff that we've read before of like the fast food and the sugar addiction and all that junk of that whatever's in all that processed foods, just like what is like brain fog and all that kind of stuff, and then it's like if you just stop it, you'll just notice like you feel kind of your whole world. It's almost like it's not like this, but like you're seeing in black and white, then all of a sudden you can see color, kind of thing. Yeah. So it's pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty significant.
It's the damage that like sugar and processed foods and a bad diet does to you is so
It's all encompassing.
It's not really discussed as something that is really, really bad for you.
Yeah.
But I guess because people just don't take it and just drop dead right away, you know, like an opioid addiction or something like that, right? It's like a more gradual thing, but it's quite toxic stuff. But anyway, so hearing that is pretty, it's not surprising.
And so like he's losing weight, and he goes vegetarian. But he's still kind of, because I mean, you can eat vegetarian and you can still eat like shit, right? Of course. Like, so he's
or like as in like if you eat like cookies,
exactly,
which is there's no meat in it, but
so then he takes it like one step further and recognizes, you know, he's still like eating a bunch of cheese and stuff too. So he takes it one step further and he just goes fully vegan.
Right.
So again, he loses whatever remaining weight it is. He feels better. And then eventually he goes on kind of this defining moment run. And so, because he's been exercising this whole time.
I was going to ask you about that. What he's still doing? He's working out then too and whatever.
So he goes on this defining run. And so if you're a runner, we've all had those runs where you just feel everything has aligned and you just feel like you could go forever.
Yep.
And those runs, you want to stay in that run moment forever because everything feels so good. And so that's what he gets to. Like you get in that flow state, right?
Yep.
So he gets into that flow state and he goes, and he's never run this far before. I think he ends up running like 24 miles or something like that. Right. And so he's just like, what? Like I did this with like no like nothing. And then he gets this like competition bug. Like, okay, I need to follow this. Like I need to do something with this.
Like how far can I go?
Wow. And what can I do with it, right? And so eventually he decides he wants to look into triathlon because of his swimming background as well. So he's kind of like, he gets a coach and he's kind of looking for a triathlon to do, but like everything is sold out. So there's not really anything. The only thing that's coming up is this is the David Goggins connection. So he sees a magazine. I don't know. It's at somebody's office. He sees this magazine and David Goggins is in it, having just finished his Ultraman.
An Ultraman. Yeah.
So that's what he decides he wants to do. He wants to do this Ultraman, and it's invitational only. Yep. And so I think it's only like 34 people that they invite.
Right. So what's the Ultraman?
So the Ultraman is a 3-day, 320-mile double Ironman. So the first day is a 6.2 mile swim and then a 90-mile bike. Day 2 is a 170-mile bike. And then day 3 is a 52-mile double marathon.
26 times 2.
Yeah.
52 mile? Yeah.
So that's what he decides he's going to train for.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, let's do it. So he ends up doing this in 2008. He ends up finishing 11th
out of 34.
Yeah, which is huge. And,
well, I mean,
and third overall American. So then he does it again in 2009, and at the same time, he's the first vegan to ever compete in this as well, right? Which is kind of a big deal, showing like you can still fuel yourself on plant food. On plant food, yeah. And so 2009, he finishes 6th, and what's interesting is that he finishes 6th, but he has this crazy bike fall. And he thinks it's done. He thinks he's over. And so he gets up, he gets to like the next aid station. I think he's like lost a pedal or something. And he's just accepted, like he's just done. He's so tired. I can't finish it. I'm done. Like I'm just accepting.
That's the second day, right? For the bike?
Yeah. So he gets to the aid station. And of course, because it's this community, right? You have this like huge community of people around you. And so
someone all fix his bike.
Someone's like, oh, I got a pedal that'll fit your bike. And he's like, no, like I'm done. And they're like, no, we'll get you fixed up. We'll get you back out there. And he gets back out there. What's interesting is he says, I'm going to find it. He talks about this fall, and people said, well, do you think you could have finished, like higher in the standings if you hadn't have had that fall? And he's just like, that's not the question. And that's not a question that, you should really
be asking.
Ask people, because that's not the...
Well, unless all you care about is what place you finish in a race, right?
And it's about...
Because it's not so much of a race for, I guess, other people. It's a mental
Yeah.
You're challenging yourself mentally is how far you can push yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't find. I had the page somewhere. We'll get to it, and I'll find the page. Oh yeah, here, 156. Sorry, guys. I'm not trying to be an idiot. It's such a good quote, and it's
not
such
trying
a
to
good,
be an idiot. I'm
just
just what I am.
Oh yeah. So they
No,
say, to this day, people often ask me, if you hadn't crashed, do you think you could have won the whole thing, or at least placed top 3? I don't know the answer, but I do know that's the wrong question. Every athlete invariably yearns for the easy victory, but what is to be gleaned from such a fortuitous event? Not much. It's great for the insatiable cravings of the ego, but it's an utter failure as a learning experience. So when things go horribly awry, you're tested. Yep. So obstacles force you to make decisions, and it's those decisions that reveal character.
Yeah. So from what he's saying there is basically like, yeah, if you win the race or whatever like that, you don't really learn anything, but it's from your challenges and from the obstacles that you are presented and how you overcome them. That's what kind of defines what kind of person you are, and that's what really...
That's how you grow.
Forces you to grow, as a person.
Exactly.
And that's where the whole crux of personal responsibility comes into play of what am I going to do that I'm faced with this challenge? How am I going to overcome that, right? You don't ask, how can I change other people to not maybe treat me this certain way or whatever it is, whatever external thing you think is causing you to have this problem.
Yeah.
But what can you do to change? Even if you have valid concerns of an external person putting force on you, which I'm not saying there isn't. Of course there are. There's always those external things. But what can you do to mitigate that, right?
Yep.
Oh, your boss is always giving you a hard time. Well, maybe you should work harder. Maybe you get in the office before the boss shows up, stay in late, make sure that they see you doing all those things. If they're lying about your quality of work. Well, how is your quality of work? Is it good? Is it the best that can be? Can you work harder?
Yeah.
All kinds of things that you can ask internally as to what you can do to overcome a situation. And something like that, I mean, you're in a race, and like I said, you're swimming the whole day before, and you're biking all day long, and you have this fall, which is probably, I mean, when those guys are going, they're going fast, 50, 60 kilometers an hour, maybe even more down. Like, I don't know, right? It just depends on where you're going there. But they go, those bikes can go fast, and you do fall from that could be very painful. So not only is your bike broken and your body's already so tired and you're injured and you're like, I just want to quit, right? But if things come in and like the fact that you just get back up and you keep going and then you finish, that's a huge test of character and proving that, nothing can stop you, right? And if you can go through that, there's no problem if your boss is yelling at you or, you get stuck in a traffic jam. It's like, I'm not going to flip out because who cares?
Exactly.
I've gone through so much worse.
Yeah. So
anyways.
So then his next thing that he does is they call it the Epic 5. And so it wasn't even his idea. It was kind of his other like Ultraman buddies' idea. And his thing was, and I think he's missing, I think this guy's missing a leg actually that does this. So what they do is they want to do a triathlon on each of the 5 islands of Hawaii. Like,
it's not a bad place to go for doing that.
No, but one after the other. So in 5 days. So they'd have to do the triathlon, hop on plane, fly to the next island, do the whole thing. So that was the plan, was 5 triathlons in 5 days on each of the 5 islands.
And so a triathlon is swimming, biking, and running.
Yeah.
And is it like marathon length of each of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you bike, 120 miles? You run for 26 and you swim for...
Yeah, I forget.
Two and a half. I don't know exactly.
Triathlon. Yeah, I forget. So definitely the run is a marathon. So 42.2K.
I think it's like 120 miles for a bike.
90 kilometers for a bike.
Well, that's it?
Uh-huh.
Really?
No, sorry. An Ironman is 181 kilometers.
Right, it's about 160 miles or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the swim is 3.9 kilometers.
Yeah, 2-point-something miles.
2.4. Yep.
2.4.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
they're going to do one of those like every day?
Every day for 5 days on each of the islands.
So how long typically does it take to complete an Ironman? It probably takes, because I mean, if you're doing a marathon, I mean, a good super, like the Olympics is like 2 hours, right? That's like Olympics. But like like Boston Marathon to qualify, it's like what, 3 hours. No, I think it's
I don't know.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so they're probably doing it in 3 to 4 hours for the run.
Yeah.
The biking maybe the same time. So say maybe like 12 hours, maybe 8 to 12 hours.
Oh yeah.
It would take.
Absolutely.
So they want to do this for 8 to 12 hours.
Yeah.
And then fly somewhere and then do it all again. And of course,
day.
if it's the next day, if they're doing it at, say they start at 8 a.m., they go to 8 p.m., they got to fly. I guess at least they're flying to Hawaii, so it's not too far, but still. And then get a few hours of sleep if they can. Yeah. And then 8 a.m. do it all over again.
You got to pack up all your gear. You got to disassemble your bike and pack it all up.
I'm sure they have teams, though, of people to help them out with that. They're just doing, like, literally just themselves.
They had, like, one other woman, basically, that helped them. They had, like, a few people, like, within the triathlon community that were trying to help them. But so that's what they... I mean, the like I've said before, like logistics is what killed them. Right? Oh, yeah. And so they weren't able to do it. They did it, but not in 5 days. I think it was 7 that they ended up doing it in because they missed one of their I think they missed one of their flights or something like that. Because shit always happens, right? You can't plan for.
Whenever you're organizing events, people don't. Sometimes they don't account for how logistics, how to actually organize and coordinate things so that they can go smoothly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So you always have to have that coordination. It's very difficult.
So, but anyways, they managed to do it, and they're like, I think they were the first people to do anything like that before. Like
just do like 5 marathons in a week.
Triathlon, Ironman.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a pretty big deal. So, and then
so all 5 of them finished. All 5.
It was just the 2 of them that ever done it.
2 of them.
2 of them. Yeah.
Him and who's the other guy?
So this other guy was another guy that had done the Ultraman, and I think this.
What's his name?
I don't know. But
doesn't say his name. Or
it does. I just forget. Yeah. But he was missing. I think it was a leg that he was missing, if I'm not mistaken. But
were they like competing so much, or were they like running side by side and biking side by side?
They each went at their own pace. Right. But they tried to like start kind of each section together.
Right.
Yeah. So and like they had other people from like the triathlon communities come out or running.
Or somebody if they knew they were there, like, hey guys, want to bike with us? Exactly. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So then 2012 he publishes this, and then 2013 is when he starts his podcast, and his podcast is huge. Like anyone who's
right now, it's not Joe Rogan huge, but he's pretty.
I don't know. It's pretty close, right?
Yeah,
like he has, and he does a lot of stuff. Like he does obviously like a lot of athletes, a lot of people that have done these incredible feats. But then he also has like kind of like almost like a social commentary every once in a while. He does with another guy. They talk about kind of social issues that are happening and that sort of thing.
So it's a little like kind of the stuff that we're trying to do. Or like we're doing is talking about people kind of think of it that way. Interesting.
Yeah. So But yeah,
so that's really cool. Yeah, like I said, I've listened to a whole lot of his clips.
Yeah.
And a lot of his stuff. But I haven't sat down and listened to his whole podcast, which I don't have the time to listen to a lot of people's podcasts, sadly.
Yeah. And so so the first kind of part of the book is just like all his story.
Right. Can I just ask a question?
Yeah,
so he does this podcast. I'm sure he probably does this full time now. So when did he quit doing his own law firm, or does he still do his own law?
Oh, stuff? No, he had to quit that, definitely.
So when did he? He did that run. What was it, 2006 or something like that? From what it sounds like, or that's when he decided like that's it. I'm unhealthy. I gotta figure stuff out. When did he quit his law? I don't know
when he quit it exactly. To
focus on what he's doing now full time.
I think it was. I don't know. I don't want to say because I actually don't remember. Right. But he did eventually quit it. What's interesting is he had read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week.
Yeah.
And so to train for the Ultraman, he knew he had to put in so many hours of training. So he completely like streamlined his business. He didn't really go into the office anymore. He made everything was mobile. Any meetings he could, he'd take them over the phone. And he just do his workouts whenever he could fit it in, but it was just very streamlined. Any clients that were high maintenance but weren't bringing in much money,
you just
let them go.
Yep.
Yeah, so he really streamlined things so he could really focus.
Right, that's what you have to do.
On that. Yeah, so that was.
And that would be helpful too if you're a lawyer, that you're making pretty good money. So that way, even if you just retain a few clients, you're still making.
Yeah.
You're still billing at a few $100 an hour.
Yeah.
Good for him.
So yeah. The other thing that's interesting in terms of like we didn't touch on it too much, but like one of the obstacles definitely once he quit being a lawyer was financial issues. Because entry fees for this, like triathlons and I'm sure Ultraman, are not cheap. Plus, you have to have all the gear and the equipment and all that stuff.
Yeah, like bikes are thousands of dollars for these bikes. Yeah,
so that was an issue. However, they don't get too into detail to kind of how they made ends meet. You just know he just says like it was a difficult time, and he always kind of second guessed himself. Like, am I, putting these needs over like my family kind of thing.
Right.
And so,
because he's married and
there's 4 kids. They
have 4 kids in total.
Yeah. And so what's interesting is
kids aren't cheap.
No, his wife is like very, like crazy supportive, and she's just saying like, if this is what you were meant to do, like the universe will conspire to support you somehow. Like basically let go and let God kind of thing. Right. Like it'll come to you, which. That's a tough one for me. Like,
it is a tough one. Obviously I'm not like a spiritual person. I'm not gonna be like, oh, well, God's gonna provide. It's like, no, you have to put things in your own hand. But I like that idea of, if you are truly passionate about something and you are doing what you are supposed to be doing or what you're meant to do, and you give it 100%, or like give it everything and you dedicate yourself to doing that, it's like more than likely you will be rewarded, right? Because whatever it is that you're doing to put your work out there, people are going to recognize that genuine sincerity of what you're doing, and then it will come back to you. That's why people say, and I do believe this, where find something that you really love to do, and if you can, just put it out there to the world, and that'll, like, that honesty, that being true to yourself, it comes back. I mean, people want to do business with people that are real, authentic, and that actually are passionate about what they're doing. So it comes back. If you worry about the money and you try to create a business around that, you're almost destined to fail because you're not doing it for the right reasons. But if you love this concept or whatever, then the money will end up flowing. And you've seen that especially nowadays when you could just put your videos out there and then the money can kind of just flow in, right?
And then kind of like that's what happened. Like he ended up after the Ultraman, like being picked up by I don't know what magazines, being called like one of the fittest people, and especially being vegan, like that angle too, especially was huge. Especially back then when vegan wasn't like a huge thing. Like that's 2009, right? So
that was starting too. Remember, because even before then we were doing gluten-free, casein-free stuff, and still are, with Tristan.
Well, it was 2010 when we started that with 2010,
Tristan. Right? Yeah. So there was stuff.
There's stuff, but it wasn't like, it was still, I think, a bigger deal then than it would have been.
Oh, for
today,
sure,
right?
It's grown quite a bit.
So so then those opportunities, like they eventually did come. Speaking engagements,
I would imagine he is making 10 times more money than what he was as a lawyer. 100%. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and again, it's fulfilling and rewarding work, right?
Yeah.
So I love hearing stories like that.
I know. So it was, like I said.
I know what you're saying. It's hard to like, I'm going to, but again, we don't know the details of what the actual financial situation was like. But like, if you literally have $0 in the bank, it'd be like, I'm just going to go be a painter, and like, okay, well, you got 4 kids and you literally can't pay rent the next week.
Yeah.
You have to have that balance of like, okay, yes, do what you can, but you have to be able to at least be able to meet the basic standard of living of whatever that means for you, right? Yeah. For some people, it's a few $100 and they'll live in their van and, they'll travel and that's it. And they do their thing. Other people, it's like, okay, well, you need to have, you know what I mean? You and I have had this conversation so much. Like, what is the lowest standard of living we'd be comfortable living at in order for us to pursue whatever it is that we want to pursue, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and then, do you have any other questions?
No, it's pretty good. Good recap. I mean, I have some questions now. Because I mean, that's basically a story, right? There's not too much else to say other than basically he's just like, he's over 40 now. He's over 40 now, and I
think he's 50.
Yeah, so he's just basically, he's super fit, super like doing all these ultras, doing all these crazy stuff, and he just has his shit together health wise and probably mentally as well too. He's just in, he's basically turned his life around, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. And then like not just once with the alcoholism, but twice, right? Yeah. So,
but it's almost like twice, but the same thing. Like the alcohol was a symptom of something, but then he got rid of that, but then he just replaced it with something else, right? So there's something else that may be in his core that was just not vibing, and that could be like you're just not doing what you're supposed to be doing, right?
Exactly. So he says, so there's just a couple of takeaways. So the first part of the book, like I said, is all about his story. The second part is kind of like how to achieve whatever.
Also, he goes into his own little...
Yeah, like it talks a lot about like goal setting, and his big thing is like finding what is your song and sing your song, right? And so that's his big thing. So we'll get to that in a minute.
Sounds very similar to Simon Sinek and Find Your Why.
Find Your Why.
Sing your song. Yep.
So he says, my accomplishments were not won by virtue of some life hack, nor by taking any shortcuts. I didn't leverage some new idea or act upon a secret previously unbeknownst to man. My accomplishments were wrought through pain, through relentless perseverance and unwavering persistence, through a commitment to be a little bit better today than I was yesterday.
Where have we heard this before?
So again, it's like you see that those are what's the constants, right? With anybody's story.
Hard work.
It's hard work.
Dedication, perseverance.
Yeah.
And discipline.
Yeah.
You know?
And then again, at the very end of the book, he says, so he's 51. I have far exceeded my wildest athletic dreams, but my accomplishment isn't athletic. It's that I healed myself. I'm nothing special, just an ordinary guy who happened to do something extraordinary. But my experience has taught me that we all sit atop mountains of untapped potential, capable of so much more than we allow ourselves to believe. If my story stands for anything, it's that change isn't just possible, it's our mandate.
It's necessary. Yeah.
And it's never too late. So, and I liked that part too, right? Like he was 40. It's never too late. So those were the big things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes me, just listening to it now, it makes me feel, I don't know what it is. I'm not shame, but maybe shame or just shameful that, you know, I was on the path. I mean, my videos, they're online of doing so well, exercising, getting the pain in my back under control to a point, and eating healthy and whatever. And then, I mean, again, you could use this as an excuse, you know, the pandemic hit and what have you. And then just slowly but surely, my bad habits crept back in and I gained a lot of weight back. And it's sad for me. And it's just, it is a little bit of shameful of like, how did I let this happen to myself again? But hearing this again, it's like I feel like right now, I feel like going to the gym. It's like it's like, oh God, you're right. Why did I let this? It's like this is not what I want. Yeah, this is not who I want to be. Why did I let myself get to this point? So, time to fix that. Time to get back on the horse, I guess. And like I said, it's just like every day, you just got to do a little bit every day, and just like compounds interest, you know.
It adds up.
If you're walking every day, walk an hour every day or whatever, and the change that'll happen, it's not going to happen overnight, but imagine you do that for a year and two. And because it's never too late. If you're alive,
it's not
never too late to change, right?
No. The other thing I'll say too is like, even though he's vegan and that is important to him for a number of reasons, he's definitely not dogmatic about it. And he's definitely not trying to force people like, this is the only way to be healthy. Like, he's not like that at all. So if anyone's like, well, I don't want to know this guy is crunchy vegan, like he is, but it's like, it works for him. And that's what he says.
This
it works
is what
for me.
It's so infuriating with stuff nowadays. It's like, just let people do what they want to do. Right. Like I'm a huge, like I love fasting and the idea of fasting because of all the medical benefits or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and be like, that's it. Everyone needs to fast. I might believe that it's the best thing. For example, he believes being vegan is the best thing for him and for me. But it's like, just everyone just do you. Just let everyone make their own choice for themselves. How does it sound so familiar? Right. Just, you know.
So, but I just wanted to put that in there because I don't want the vegan thing to kind of throw people, but so I
love the idea of being vegan. You and I have been gone it for a while.
It's just, but you know what? I feel better when I eat meat. I just do.
That's fair.
So
a big thing for me too about the whole thing about meat versus no meat is the type of meat and how the actual farming is done on the animals. 100%. Where it's like, I don't even want to eat it because of all the antibiotics and the shit that's pumped into these animals.
Gross.
Like that's not good, right? So it's like a nice wholesome plants, and you got your salads, and you have your fruits, and it just tastes so good. And that natural sugar that you get from it. It's just so. But anyways, I love that. Just not pushing on people. Just find out what works for you, right?
And it's more of a book about how to achieve your goals and how to find your song, because I think that's something that a lot of people, especially you, have trouble with, right? Is finding like, what is that purpose? What is that why? And then how do you go about achieving it? Right. So that's what the book is about. It's not about being a vegan athlete. It's about
for sure
finding your song and achieving your dreams.
You just happens to be vegan. There's probably only a few lines in there, and then that's it, right? Just get back on the bike and start training to find yourself. Like for him, it's marathons and ultra whatever. I'm sure he's not saying like the only way for you to get into shape is to do 8 Ironmans in a row or whatever, right? No, it's not what it is. Just find out that thing that is going to spark you to say, like, what's your level of health, your level of fitness, well-being that you want to achieve.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do have a question for you now after going over this book, which is great. I think I might even just get. I might read it. I might just get the Ultra book. The Ultra book.
Audio book.
the audio book to listen to. Because I find like that's probably the best way for me to find time to if I can just listen to a book while I'm exercising or while I'm on the going for a bike ride or whatever. That's probably the best way. And I've noticed something too. I told you this before, but for whatever reason, because a lot of these videos, like I've been watching a lot of live streams of the convoy because I'm like, you're hearing stuff from the news and you're like, I
want to see people on the street.
I need to see what's actually going on. So there are thousands of hours of live streams. I'm just seeing a shadow here from the door. There are thousands of hours of live. Oh, there's a note. So it might not be too much emergency. There are thousands of hours of live streams. So I'm like, I just want to see. So let me see these people that are walking around. If there's something bad that happens, we'll see it. Right? Everyone will see it. This is like what's actually going on. And of course, none of that stuff's going on that's being portrayed in the news. Anyways, the point is that these live streams are hours and hours long. So I'm like, I just go on, they have a speed, it's like ×2 speed. So you can watch it twice as fast when they talk. So it's like you're just getting the gist of it. So like even in like an audiobook, it's like it might be like 20 hours. It's like I just double the speed. Like I listen to it in 10. So I can listen to it even faster, right? So anyways, I just thought, and now like when I'm watching like just any YouTube
you're just like,
show, it's like, it's 5 minutes long. No, it's not. It's 2.5 minutes long. I'm just double speed it. It's like, get to the point.
That's awesome.
So,
then that's a great idea because it's like out of all the books that I've read, and I've read like a lot this year so far. Definitely that's the number one. All right, so we'll look at all these tabs that you have here. It's like when you bookmark every page, I think it's like there are so many gems in it like, though. It's just like. Anyway.
So my question that I have from you on this book is, so he's done a lot of marathons and you hear all the torture he's went through, but what's come out. Is that something that you want to do?
So
do you want to be like, you know what? I've read this book. Hey, let's go do an Ironman.
Ironman for sure. Maybe even like a half Ironman. The thing with me,
just a half to start. Well, you got to start somewhere.
The thing with me is I find whenever I've tried to train for a half marathon, I did it one time. I have so many issues with my feet. And so that's what kills me is my feet and with the running, because running and any triathlete, the running is always the hardest thing that's on your body is the run. Obviously,
for sure. Swimming, you're just in water. Biking, you're on a nice bike.
But I definitely I would love to be able to do a triathlon just once. I wanted to do the half marathon just once. So,
but see, a triathlon is like a half marathon on steroids, opiates, everything, all the worst things combined.
I know. But just
like a half marathon, it's like, a couple hours running. This is like a full marathon, marathon in the bike thing and a full swim.
But I think it's like you want to see it's out there. It's a thing that people do. You would love to see, are you capable of it? What happens? How do you push through the tough times? How do you react? How do you respond? Right?
Yep. I'm in agreement with you. So let's figure out what we can do to do something like this. Cool. Maybe we'll just, even if it's just like you said, it's coming up into spring. So maybe we'll figure out how we can just, run around the block a few times or whatever. Loop it up at 10K.
Yeah.
Hop on the bike up and down, whatever, even down the boardwalk in Halifax or something like that. Whatever, we'll bike around town.
Do our own,
and then jump in the harbor. No, maybe not in the ocean, but whatever, right? I mean, we have the lake right here.
The lake's here,
We can just swim back and forth, do a few laps or what have you. Stay close to shore in case
we die.
Okay, in case of drowning. But you have those little packs or whatever. There's lots of things we do. And then if there's anything that comes up, now that things, hopefully if things start opening up this summer and that all these restrictions are gone and we can start, people can hopefully live normal. We can do these kinds of things and maybe we'll see what's up towards the end of the summer. You never know, right?
Challenge ourselves. Yeah,
absolutely. Let's let's figure that out. Because you know me, you say running is difficult for you. Do you think it could be just like your feet? Do you think it could just be like maybe we just need to get like a really custom set of shoes and like is that, do you know what I mean? Like, do you just not have the right types of shoes to run?
It could be. I've tried different types of shoes, and
I know, but we never really gone.
I think part of the problem is getting someone to watch
Right, sorry,
I know we have a note. Getting someone to watch Stride and Heel Strike and seeing I think that's would be more the problem than like the equipment, right? It's about how you're running. Okay, so that's what I think it would be. That's what I would want to do.
Yeah, because I know I have issues with running as well too, or my knee, whatever. Not so much anymore. It's just my knee.
Your knee.
So we gotta figure that could be again too the shoes I run in. You see my shoes; they're so old and frail, and I just get like. What is the cheapest shoe? I mean, I've had some good decent shoes, but
So
I love that. Anyways, so highly recommended. 10 stars for just a book on its own.
Yep.
And in terms of being something that is inspiring to read is also a 10 star.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And even I think for you being something that you want to, sorry, we got stuff going on. So, but just being as a book that, what was I going to say? I said it's inspiring. But being a book of things that you actually want to do. Yeah. It's also a 10?
Yep.
All right. So Andrea highly recommends it.
Yeah.
So the book again, Finding Ultra by Rich Roll, and he has a podcast. Anyways, we'll link to all of his stuff. Yeah. I'm sure you've heard of him, but well, even if you haven't, we'll link it. Now you have. Obviously.
We'll link it. Yeah. Cool.
So that's cool. So yeah, let's head to the gym. I don't know. Let's go work out. Let's do something.
See what our note is about over here.
Yeah, it's a nice day outside, so we can maybe at least go for a walk or something. We'll go for a running walk. No,
it's winter. It's winter and there's ice. I don't run on ice.
Well, we'll go down to the gym.
Yeah. Cool.
Anyways, so thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And or watching if you're watching. We really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And if you like our stuff, please do check out our website, odumandandrea.com. Mm-hmm. If you feel like supporting us, please do. We appreciate it. But, if you don't, that's great. That's great. Just please continue enjoying our stuff. We're happy to be here. Happy to do it.
Absolutely.
And with that, have a good one.
We'll
see you next time.
Bye.